Hi and welcome to Dave's Classic Collectibles. Today we're going to have a look at our 7th video of Australian Cars, the collection. Today we're going to be looking at issues 25 to 28 and see how they stack up to the previous editions. So let's go out to the workshop and have a closer look at these 4 models. Looking at issue 25 to 28 today of the Australian Cars, the collection. If you want to see a more detailed review on what you get with this collection, go back to our first video, which is issue 1 to 4, or have a look at our playlist where we have all the models of the Australian car collection up to date that we have filmed, all there for you to have a look at. So issue 25 is the Holden HR Premier. Issue 26, the Ford XA Falcon Superbird Hardtop. Issue 27, the Land Rover 88, and finally today issue 28, the Ford Falcon XB 4-door. History and significance. Well, we'll start at the HR Premier. It was a real big start for Holden. Premier at the time was the top of the line, their prestige Holden. So obviously there was no, or Statesman was later with HQ, but no Brougham, which started 2 years later in 1968. So in 1966, the Premier was their flagship. And Holden obviously realised there was a bit of a market here for that. And it was the start of a big upgrade with their interior for the Prem. So very big significance for the HR for Holden being a little bit more luxurious. The other thing was it was the start of 2 new motors. They started off with a 161, so the old 149 was then obsolete, so therefore more power with your standard, and then they went to the 186 option instead of the 179, so a bit more power. And also these came with an option of an X2, and that was basically, say you had the twin carburettor as well. Upgraded styling, they raved a lot about the styling for the HR. The rules generally say the first model and the last model tend to be more collective and more desirable. Obviously the HR is the end of that EJ, EH, HD and then the HR. So this was the last of that shape in that mold. So a very important car for Holden. Looking at issue 26, the Ford Falcon XA Superbird. Very significant car this for Ford. It was basically introduced for homologation, so basically for racing. And Alan Moffat pretty much just wanted a lighter car, so they sort of were cheating the rule book a little bit. So the GTs were a couple of 100 kilos heavier. So the idea of this was put the 4.9 litre 302 in this coupe or hardtop and basically keep them as light as they possibly could. They got a few nice GT or GS features. They did get the GS clusters, so therefore you had the 140 miles per hour speedo and also the 7,000 RPM tachometer, but still had the Falcon 500 steering wheel, so they didn't get the 3-spoke like the GT or the GS. They still had standard seats, the standard Falcon 500 seats. They did get carpet. One of the significant things that makes them quite noticeable was the rear lifting louver. They got a sports console in the automatic only, so not in the manual, you missed out on that one. But yeah, basically built for racing, keep the weight down and cheat the rules books a little bit, obviously because the GT was a heavier car. The next car we're going to look at is issue 27, the Land Rover 88. Bit of an odd one. They've had a few odd cars that sort of rock up in the Australian Cars, the collection. It's not really an Australian car. Yeah, they were built, they were assembled here in Australia, but really they are a British car. This was the Series 2 or the end of the Series 2 in the 88 series. They started them in 1948 and they ran these vehicles till 1985. The issue we're looking at is the 1961 model, and that car came with the 2.2 litre, which was a petrol motor, 50 kilowatts, and they weighed quite a fair bit, 1,350 kilos for a short wheelbase, so quite heavy but very robust and very, very known for their robust and ruggedness vehicle, and was really, really crashed and tested and really given to the Australian conditions, which is maybe why they did bring them in the Australian cars, the collection. But as I said, the 88 actually refers to the wheelbase, meaning that there's 88 inches in between them. So that's pretty much it for that particular car, but as I said, a little bit odd, I find it, really being in the collection. The last one, issue 28, is quite a car indeed. The Ford Falcon XB 4-door. Obviously these cars came in the hardtop as well, like the Superbird there, but this is a 4-door version. Obviously 351, 5.8 litre, and quite a hell of a lot of kilowatts, really, 194 for a car built in 1974. It's awesome. Yeah, they were a bit heavy, but that's a lot of kilowatts considering, you know, even the last model Falcons were only a little bit over the 200 kilowatt mark, so for a standard 6-cylinder. So for a car that was built a long time, like nearly 50 years later, but 40 odd years later. So they were very, very good, the XB GT. And a lot of people really thought this was the last of the GT Falcons. The interesting thing also, they built more XB GTs than any other model GT Falcon. So they were quite popular. Obviously there was no Phase 4, a little bit of, well, Phase 4 there was in the XA GT, but there was no more Phase 4 or Phase 5 after that. So basically the GT was the only variant that you got, and you either had to pick it in the 4-door or in the hardtop. Unfortunately, as you can see, our model there is missing the mirror, so we can talk about that one, but it would have been an option, so maybe that's it. But the model is actually missing that. There were 950 of these sedans made, and 949 hardtops were made in the XB GT, and definitely one of my favourite GT Falcons, the XB GT. Diving into the moulds now, and generally these are all pretty consistent on the IXO models. I'd have to say all 4 of these cars are fantastic the way they've done them. Picking a winner today is pretty hard because I think all these cars are really looking like they're supposed to. HR's lovely, the XA Firebird, the XB GT, and also the Land Rover. They all look really, really good. So I think the moulds are great. And yeah, well done to IXO. For what you're paying, they're really good. Having a closer look at the models and looking at now the paint and decals, once again, IXO are producing really great value for money. I can't see any paint swirls, any paint imperfections, nothing on all 4 models. The decals all look very well. They're all painted on, which is generally what these guys have been doing. IXO, I think they're quite great value for money, really. And I've seen a lot worse finishes on models that you pay bigger money for. So I have to take off my hat to IXO on this, because the paintwork and the decals on these are really great value for money. Attention to detail today, all 4 cars look quite unique. I'll definitely say my favourite is going to be the HR today, though all the cars represent very well. The very common red interior, the gold paint, the vinyl roof, the chrome everywhere, the door handles, the hubcaps, the front and rear bars, the headlights, the grille. Attention to detail on the HR, definitely one of the best they've done. The XA is nice as well. I like the fact that it's got the dual mirrors on it. It's also the wheels look great with that hubcap and the little centerpiece, or your dress room, sorry, and your centerpiece. The rear bar, the tail lights, the interior being that real typical Ford Falcon 500 beige off-white. Attention to detail, fantastic. The Land Rover 88, looking at it, also that plain typical basic stock white rim. The grille looks great. I actually thought it was a decal at first, but no, it's an insert. The wipers being reverse, typical British car, that real boxy looking shape and the colour of the car. I think they've done a very good job. The XB, the mirrors broke as it came, so I'm a little bit disappointed about that. So attention to detail, or maybe quality, not real good. It's probably the least of the four of being my favourite. I think it's not quite as good as the other three cars today. They are still good, do not get me wrong. The little bits of chrome are quite nice with the petrol cap. Also the typical XB 12 slot rims, the matching black interior. I guess it just doesn't have the wow factor of the other three, but it's still quite a good model. Interestingly enough, though, on the base plate there and also on the magazine, they're just calling it a Ford Falcon XB, not a actual GT, and it is a GT four-door. Summing up today, as always, and I've said it till we're blue in the face, value for money. You're going to go very, very hard to beat this for what they're charging for these models. They have now announced that they're going to do 90 models of the Australian Cars The Collection. Originally, when it was started, they said there was 60, so they've increased that by another 50%. You can look online and have a look at the whole 90 cars and see what they are producing. As we said, they come out every second Thursday at the newsagents. But summing up, value for money is there. I just think sometimes some of the random cars they're really putting in their list is a little bit, and definitely the Land Rover 88 is one of those ones going, not really an Australian car, and part of a collection that probably I don't think is that good. But saying that, not many of the Land Rover 88s have been made in 143, so if you're really keen on that one, it's definitely one to get. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Dave's Classic Collectibles and our 7th video on Australian Cars The Collection. How good were these four cars? Definitely the Red XB is something that I really quite liked, and I've done a great job on it, and probably one of the nicest examples in 143. Are you collecting these models? If so, leave a comment down below, or just collecting 143. If you enjoyed today's episode, please send us a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so, because that'd be very helpful. It's exciting times for Dave's Classic Collectibles. All these cars behind me are all about to get packed up as we're about to move premises. So next time we'll have probably a different background. So until next time, happy collecting.